Good afternoon, and thank you very much to the organizers for inviting me. And thank you for the Tanzanian hosts for welcoming us so warmly. I'm Luis. I'm representing here the Eduardo Mondlane University from Mozambique, and I'm working at the Department of Veterinary Tropical Diseases of the University of Pretoria. So I'm going to speak about field methods of detecting trypanoside resistance. Thank you very much to my colleagues here, Shona and Paul yesterday, and Olivier, and today Jan, that really opened the flow for this presentation. I'm going to, Jan presented a definition. I think that is quite important to define resistance, and is a decrease of absence of sensitivity of trypanosome strains to standard quality drugs at recommended doses. Is a bit a shorter definition. Jan presented a more complete one. So let's speak about classical facts. So we have basically two drugs, diminazene acetate and isometamidine chlorides. In different presentations, people speak about 50 years, but the first recorded use of diminazene is early 50s, so it's 70 years in the field now. And the same applies to isometamidine chloride that was launched in 63, so it's got 60 years now. Like Jan said, two remarks about those two drugs coming from interventions of yesterday. One is that it's very curious that diminazene acetate was really a fantastic drug on the 50s. And there was a researcher here working in Kenya, if I'm not wrong, that published in 1962, Whiteside, the Berenil Index, which was a very robust way of using this drug and based on the pharmacokinetics of the drug to check the magnitude of challenge at field level. I think that we are forgetting about this Whiteside Berenil Index that I think that is still valid today. The second thing is a comment about the sanative pair. We don't speak about sanative pair a lot now because from the interventions of yesterday, I think that basically the feeling that I get is that the use of isometamidine is not a structured use as a prophylactic, but is a random use, much of the time as a curative. And that's really a big problem because as you, I mean, it's classical and published that isometamidine depends on the level of challenge at the field, has got a prophylactic coverage between 3 months and 6 months, and the risk at the herd level of having subcurative doses in different animals are huge. So the probability of exposing trypanosome populations to non-curative doses of the drug are quite high. So the other fact here is that it seems that we have reported resistance in the 3 species, Russii, Valvex, and Congolese, and the overwhelming majority of published data is on Congolese. Ariette commented, and I'm quite scared about that statement, there is an increased trend on trypanoside. I don't know. It seems if we correlate it with the increase of use or deficient use of trypanosides. So this is the map of Africa. We spoke about it. There are resistance reported at least in 20 countries. But I would like to, and about here are the references that I got to produce this map that is over 32. But one thing that I would like to to emphasize here in this map, and it's very good that we have the CVO of Tanzania here, is that most of these studies are not veterinary service triggered or lead. I mean, the leadership of the veterinary services in this kind of studies are very weak. Most of these studies are based on academic institutions and on research projects. And this is something that we have to address. The other thing of these studies, as we mentioned it before, if we consider the geographical extension of a country, they are really very limited. So I would challenge here Giuliano, that spoke about the atlases of trypanosome in Africa, to consider seriously to introducing a layer on the database of presence and absence of trypanocidal resistance. I think that it would be very useful, not only for the vet services, but also for all this discussion about a new drug. What is the real market that the new drug has? So let's go back to the core part of the talk, that is detection of resistance in the fields. Jan spoke about different methods. I'm going to concentrate on block treatment and detection at the field level. It's a big pity that the PCR that was developed for diminazene acetate was invalidated by a very elegant paper showing that the molecular marker of resistance was not related with the uptake of diminazene by Trypanosoma congolens. So we don't have really a PCR for resistance now. And it's urgent because it will speed up the mapping of resistance in Africa. Okay, basically I'm going to, this is a very concise report of our practical experience in Mozambique. And I'm going to sort of critically analyze it. The first point is the recruitment of the animals. Probably it's more correct saying recruitment of infected animals. This is very, I mean, the logistics of it relates very much with the prevalence. If we have a very high prevalence, this exercise is good, is easy. If you have a very low prevalence, it's quite demanding. The other thing that most of the studies don't consider is how many animals we recruit and which species. I'm referring to it because the majority of the studies are using cattle, but of course, I think that you agree with me that in any region where the prevalence of infection in small ruminants are considerable, logistically is much easier. You can bleed 100 goats in the same time that you bleed 10 cows at the field level, considering African conditions of work in the field. So how many animals is a question. And basically it's difficult to answer because even if we go for like a classical formula of detection, the presence of disease, we can extrapolate it for detection, the presence of resistance. We don't have the majority of time an idea of what is the prevalence of resistance in a given area. So if you consider the formula, if you assume the prevalence of resistance at 0.1%, you need 3,000 animals to prove it, to detect one. And if you assume 50%, you need 5 animals. So it's quite crucial to develop guidelines on that aspect. Okay, after recruiting infected animals, like Jan showed, we have to assign them to groups, mark them, and there is the second one, treatment. Accurate estimation of body weight is a problem at field level, a big problem. The correct dilution of the drug is repeated, another problem. The quality of the drug and how you actually inject the drug. And I don't know if it is visible, But you see this lesion here, the scar after treatment with isometamidine is extremely common because sometimes when you don't go deep intramuscular, you have an abscess that is responsible for a lot of failure of isometamidine at field level. Okay, so after that, we have monitoring. And basically, the schedule that we are using is observing at 14 and 28 days. Again, a question, what is the dynamic of relapse? We have to answer that in terms of time. If you ever relapse, what is the, because it has got a lot of logistic implications. And classically, we consider 28 days to allow for relapses to be detected. And after that, we have the swap of drugs to check for single or multi-resistance. And we can follow it for more 14 days. And at the end of it, we have a response of the sensitivity of the parasites to will work very well. And you can increase the sensitivity of it by checking instead of 1, 2 capillaries, you double the sensitivity. Last but not least, I put this slide because it's a pity that we, in Africa, we work in the fields and we have all these strains, but we lose them. So I think that we spoke about the biobank at ILRI, and we have to have a concerted effort and financial backup to try to conserve, to biobank all these strains. And we have very classical protocols for cryopreservation, and you can basically use, at least for congolens and brucei, the infection of mice and carry them to your closer lab. And that's basically my message. I would like to acknowledge my team in Mozambique. Those are the guys that were in the fields working on these methods. And I would like to thank you all for your attention. Okay.